Well, that's how we're doing it for now, I suppose. I'll troubleshoot that later. Going vertical. Excuse me briefly while I crack a well-deserved beer. Cali IPA from... Is this going to break terms of service or something? I don't care. Rocky Ridge, a lovely local brewery in a little corner of the world. Oh, sorry, I wasn't using the mic. So this is all stuff I need to practice. So this is part of this. The other ostensible topic of this live stream is to try and explain what this kompendium thing is, what this project is, which I've been like working towards doing in bursts and starts for a while in many different formats, and trying to do an article and then various Twitter threads, and but like always with a lot of bits left out and summarized and expressed hastily or not quite how nothing's felt quite right. Like and so then I spend more time plotting and planning and scheming in the background about how I'm going to do this. But I think being forced to just sit and try, and kind of work it out on the fly. I've got all these documents and pages and notes and thoughts and a nice big whiteboard to scribble on, and and I've tried to synthesize that into, I'm ultimately working towards some grand video essay that lays it all out neatly, but evidently there are all these technical problems to solve with that, especially given my current access to devices. I've got a phone and my laptop's out of action, and that's what I'm working with here. So we're gonna make it work. But I'm hoping in the process of doing so, I'll just by being forced to sit and try and explain it, refine that description and explanation, and kind of hone in on a rough script of a pitch of how I'd and maybe different things for different circumstances and different people, but how I'd initially present it to someone who's completely out of the loop. What's that? My mum and sister will be back soon, so I'm hearing noises and maybe that's them. So is there any other preamble to do? I'm kind of putting it off. Feel like there was a thread I dropped there. Yeah, okay. And then the purpose of doing a live stream instead of sitting down and trying to record like a coherent take that I'm happy with and can watch back and edit together is, yeah, A, to refine the pitch and just get some practice at it, but B, to, if it's streamed and available and accessible to others, I can potentially share it with them, but that's not the main purpose here. More to me, so I can go back through and maybe cut something together out of those clips, because with the live stream, what I'm intending is for it to not be very watchable or entertaining. I want to afford myself the space to spend 5 minutes rifling through this to find the right thing, or diving into a journal and in total silence with nothing interesting going on. But given technical limitations, without stressing about storage and, oh god, I need to stop the camera and start it again because I'm going to fill up my phone, and then B, with my just anxiety about being perceived and worry about phrasing of words and how long I pause to think of something and all of that stuff. And the rest, and working on is this close enough? Is this too close? Should I hold it lower? It was picking up on the birds before, so it mustn't be too bad. Probably could clip it on, but there's an aesthetic to like tiny mic, right? So yeah, that's the goal here. That's the goal. I guess we should just dive right in. So, give me a moment. I'm going to make good use of this whiteboard, although it already has an ant on it, so let me go get my bigger razor. Hang on. I'll grab some magnets as well, they might come in handy. Okay, so part of me's like conflicted about, I'm still unsure if I want to directly cut this up into a video that I then post, or more so go back through and kind of put together a script for something I then record more professionally. I don't want to worry too much about professionalism here, but that I go and re-record later. And so, do I write a, yeah, why not? Because if I am going to cut this up, I want to like segment it with some kind of title card. And like hold it up to camera, and then I can cut that out or something. So, what am I pitching this as? Well, the title of the thing is, what the heck is a kompendium? which I thought, what the heck is the compendium project? But then I've also played around with tweaking the name of that. But then I've gone back and forth on that too, and the channel name is still Compendia Project. But I'm having second thoughts. Which is why I opted for just Compendium singular as opposed to the project. But really it's about, so let me nip that in the bud. Okay, it's going to be the Compendium Project. I think Compendia dot something is a good URL. And, you know, could work elsewhere in marketing and stuff. But for the name of the initiative, I think Compendium is comes across more immediately recognisable. I'll work with some marketers at one point and maybe they'll tell me otherwise. So here's what it's going to be called. What? And then I'm getting worried about spacing. What the heck is that? Pick the letters here. I don't like that peg. See, I'm like, bear with me because this is the point, is it's going to be boring, but hopefully fruitful. That'll do, whatever, don't get too... See, now it's not centered. Those letters are too big. Okay, one more. But then that's all I get. Is that reversed? It's fucking reversed, isn't it? Oh no. That kind of ruins... Ay, ay, ay. Can I flip it? That flips the camera though. That's not what I want. I'll flip it in post. Whatever. You can read it backwards, right? Oh god. This is all falling apart. No, it's not. You're just learning. I'm learning. I'm learning that maybe YouTube isn't the best place to do this. Or maybe the YouTube Creator Studio app or whatever it is better. That's probably actually a good call. But we'll see. Do I want to continue? Or is it just flipped in the viewfinder? Does it flip it back? It really ought to, right? It probably doesn't. Effects, retouch on, no. Lighting, create highlight, hide live video, mute. That's all there is. This is absurd. Plus, what does the plus do? Start a poll, Q&A, comments, chat filter, share. Oh, it just frustrates. Like, I could just continue. I've built it up this much, but it's so annoying. That's so annoying. Alright. What's the kompendium project? What is it? Ain't that the question? Which way in? Because I think there's a couple ways in. Yeah, look, I should illustrate them. Right? One way that I like to pitch the idea, and this is probably most appropriate for anyone who's moderately to severely online, because they'll know the the kind of hope is that everyone knows the references well enough, but anyone who uses these a lot will really get it. And the pitch is it's Wikipedia, but it's Google Maps. I guess I could do a Venn diagram. This is crap. I'd spend a lot more time, and it's probably backwards. Amazing. Wikipedia, right? To my mind, one of the most incredible creations of human civilization. And we're so used to it, and we're so kind of jaded to it that it doesn't really... Oh yeah, it's Wikipedia, and then you can go straight into all the very fair and often unfair criticisms of what it does. But I think just the... Oh god, I'm not using the mic. It's sitting on the ground. I've not been near... See? That's what the practice is for. Could you hear me that whole time? I'm sure you could, but it wasn't very nice. Just the basic premise of a free, accessible database of information on nearly any topic imaginable. that though it has its problems, is maintained and improved by the fact that anyone can edit it. Oh, anyone can edit Wikipedia. Yeah, okay. Anyone can post a tweet or write an article. Asterisk, I know. Caveat. But, like, also caveat on anyone can edit Wikipedia. Because, like, yeah, people go in and vandalize it and mess it up, but, like, the people hyper focus on that and not the fact that, and it was 90 seconds before it was immediately reverted and updated, and that account was restricted to prevent it from happening further. That's in the best case. I know there's stuff that stays on there for a while, and that, I don't know, man, that's just funny. Like, yeah, don't take everything you read on there as gospel. But where would you... Don't take anything you read anywhere as gospel. Not even the fucking Gospels. So, all the kind of base level criticism accounted for, it's still the fucking coolest thing ever. And yet, beyond... And I think this is what the base level criticism is gesturing towards. Poorly, albeit. But at precisely the same time as it being a wonder of the world, as far as I'm concerned, that you can fit in your pocket if you want. Under the hood, there are many, 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 many issues. And not even under the hood. That it could use a paint job as well. It feels like it's beholden to like standards and practices and habits of yesteryear at this point. You know, they've been making progress on the mobile app and the UI and tweaking it around the edges, but I think fundamentally it's still limited by its allegiance to the classic encyclopedia format, the written book, a bunch of words on a page with a few diagrams and maybe some charts and graphs thrown in here and there. Which has its place. Believe me, it has its place. But for that to be the primary format of this corpus of information on everything feels unnecessarily limiting, and it's missing out on a lot of what could be done with some more degrees of freedom. And so and there are many, we could get further in that rabbit hole of what the current UI/UX and back-end vision and operating principles of Wikipedia as it currently stands could work on. But that fundamental point about the format of information and the way it's presented is where the other half of my little Venn diagram comes in. Because I think another of the greatest achievements of modern humanity is the global interactive geographical map, which no one can argue with me that Google Maps isn't the S tier in that ranking. I know Apple Maps has been getting a bit better lately, apparently. I wouldn't know. But as far as I know of the history, that they were the kind of progenitor of this thing. I'd be interested in any previous like failed attempts at building a map of the whole planet. But like, parent company aside, the format of that thing, and I guess this is one thing that separates Wikipedia and Google Maps is in the following on from the incredible popularity of Google's attempt at this. There have been many copycats and many offshoots and things of that nature. But whereas it seems like with Wikipedia, it's kind of, that's it. Like, is there anything else that even remotely comes close? And I think that might be one of the key pieces contributing to their relative stagnation. But put the others aside and just call it Google Maps for now. What does Google Maps do? Well, it makes all the geographical information you could ever possibly want available, and it's got limitations too. We'll get there. Not that you could ever but that any normal person, not that I could ever possibly want. And I want to see tectonic plates and and weather and the rest of it. But we'll get there. Any piece, like, obviously, as evidenced by its incredible popularity, it's a very useful tool, and it gives you all the basic information you could possibly need. And it's all pretty brain dead simple to navigate and operate. Like in some other universe, you could imagine an app like Wikipedia, Geopedia, some kind of thing that gives you all the same information Google Maps does, but in this kind of overwhelming and often inscrutable format that makes it a challenge to navigate. That sends you down some rabbit hole within the rabbit hole you were in order to answer a question that came up regarding a certain term that was used in the description of the thing that you were first initially looking into, and then getting lost in that rabbit hole and never coming back to the thing you were originally trying to learn about. Maybe I just have this problem. I don't think I just have this problem though. Do you have this problem when you use Google Maps? Do you ever zoom so far in that it's impossible to then regain your bearings? Maybe someone has, but if you know the basic operations of the application, it seems unlikely to me. Because the trick is, at any point, you can zoom back out and zoom back out and see exactly where you were in context with everything else connected to it. And then you can zoom on back in and continue from where you were. And at any level in between, you can know where you are in relation to the others. And it doesn't have to... It doesn't feel like some convoluted web of jumps between universes that you're making, and that you have to somehow then retrace back through. Which, incidentally, I want like a... This wouldn't fix the problem in the way that I envision, but it would go it'd be a good step in the right direction for some... And maybe it does exist, I don't know, I haven't looked into it much, but like a diagram of my travel throughout Wikipedia, and when I branched off in this direction and then came back, and then is like, that seems eminently possible. I could probably have vibe code it in half an hour if I tried, but will I? We'll see. Like, Wikipedia, do something like that, please. Like a page history, but not just a list of things and when I accessed them, but what I was... When I search for something, and then when I click on a link, and then I click on another, and then as I navigate through, show me that pathway that I've taken. That would help. It would help. It wouldn't fully solve the problem. So let me continue. So something that comes up in speaking about Google Maps in this way and comparing it to other information navigation services is, it could be a criticism, or it could be kind of the key to the answer here, which is that, well, of course Google Maps is easy to navigate because you're like moving around actual space in the actual world. It's like Euclidean space. You can go a kilometre in one direction and go a kilometre back the other way, and you're back where you were. And you can... And anything that's nested within something is automatically nested within the thing that the thing it's nested within is nested within. Cities are in states which are in countries, and you'll never get a country that's within a city. And so it just makes it all brain dead simple. You don't even think about it. Of course you're going to navigate in that way when the information is geographical. And so the kind of clincher here is, how do we turn conceptual information into spatial information? This is the project, and this is what I need help with, because boy, is that a task. A doable one, I think. One that could be completed in a multitude of ways. If we're talking a high level conceptual map that fits everything on Wikipedia into it. Then there are many ways you could lay that out at the top level. Some of which being things that exist, these graphs that automatically generate a bunch of nodes based on which articles link to each other, which is great. That's an awesome start. But as with Google Maps, the goal is that at each level, the top level included, you can get a decent sense of the landscape. And you get that in some of these automatic graphs, and there's these blobs, and people will color code them sometimes, and that's fine, but it doesn't leave a visual impression in my head that I can then recall and imaginally navigate in the same way that seeing where Indonesia is in relation to Australia on a map does. And so that's a whole big question mark over the whole thing, is how to do that top-level conceptual organization. But here's the thing, I think that the deeper you go, the clearer a lot of these arrangements of information become. Like, within different fields and different disciplines, there are standard ways of expressing key concepts within that field. There are standard diagrams that are dusted off for every single undergraduate class as they go through, and some of them are so long-lived because they're fantastic diagrams, but others are because they're basically all that exists. And so I think even forgetting the high-level conceptual level within any kind of field, I think there's great potential in pulling together, linking, and reworking or tweaking and modifying this kind of core set of visual expressions of information that are necessary for you to complete a certain curriculum. And there are obvious examples. You got a periodic table. You've got the periodic table of elementary particles and not atoms, chemistry. And then there's lots of triangles about in all sorts of places, but there's one for if you're doing geology, for classifying silt versus clay versus sand and how they interact. And then there's diagrams of water phase separation, phase transitions, given pressure and temperature. And then there's and on, and then in music. So that's a whole other layer, because that's where I have spent the most time and know the most things and want to demonstrate a lot of this in practice is in trying to explain music theory in the way that I think about it. And again, there are heaps of bog standard, classic diagrams of more concrete or abstract nature, directly of piano keys that are used a lot of the time, or more of standing waves in a harmonic series and that kind of thing. And on and on and on, and in every field. And I think when you're at that level, it becomes as obvious as with the geographical information how useful and clear a lot of these diagrams can make things that would be magnitudes more effort to try and explain with speech or writing. Picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say. I think a picture with words is worth what? How does that work? Like 1,000,000 words? So that kind of transitions into maybe the final piece in this. Oh, g'day. Final piece in this pitch. This version of the pitch. Because the question is still, well, how do we stitch all that together then? Okay, collect a bunch of diagrams, but then just fling them out onto a table? No, I want the vision is that at each level you get a similarly evocative and intuitive diagram where each component of that diagram can then become its own diagram if you zoom in far enough. And so the question becomes how to coordinate the construction of this whole thing, obviously. And this is where I'll usually bring in what is probably the thing that caused me before to describe this version of the pitch as more resonant for those who are relatively online, because like everyone knows Wikipedia and Google Maps. This next one is a little bit more obscure, but a lot of people do know it if you're in the right circles, and that is Reddit's, stay with me here, Reddit's R-Place experiments. which, yeah, I always get conflicted on how. Sure, you can hear that ice cream truck now. Maybe I should go get an ice cream. I forgot what I was saying. Reddit our place. People don't. Yeah, on whether to, on how much detail to kind of explain it in. Whether do I need to give you a primer on it, or do I accept that, or do I assume that you already know what this is? Give you the basics. So you got a big grid of 1,000 pixels, and anyone with a Reddit account prior to this experiment beginning can go in and choose one of the pixels and change it to one of 10 different colors, or 16, or whatever it was. And then they have to wait 5 or 10 minutes before they can then go and change another pixel. But each time you change one, it reflects on everyone else's board as well. So super basic, simple rules, but just brilliant, I think. Because what you get out of those simple rules and those slight restrictions is a necessary self-organization of cooperation between different users in different subcultures and subreddits and gaming fandoms and countries and this and that. And you should go look, if you haven't seen, you should go check out the final map of the original, I think, what was it, 2015 Reddit our place. Because I think it's one of the coolest little internet experiments that I've seen, and certainly that I've participated in, because I did. I was there. I was a Redditor. Oh, hold the booze. And this thing just popped up. It was a year after the button. That was another fun, interesting thing. I won't go into that. But that spirit of collaboration that arose, particularly in that first our place, and they did some follow-ups, and I think, yeah, they're all well and good, but Reddit was having like management issues and controversies, and the spirit was a bit different there. Look at the final board from 2023, for instance, to get a sense of that. But that first one, that spirit of collaboration and this kind of, yeah, this self-emergence of these little tribes and these battles and victories and losses and advancing on the board and expanding and this really kind of interesting dynamics that arose. I think I've just ever since then been perpetually struck by the possibility of a format like that. You're getting blasted with the sun here, so I don't know if I should. Here we go. It'll probably pick back in a minute anyway. And the one kind of I guess, yeah, like the core difference, or the only real tweak that I'd make to that, caveat, asterisk, many tweaks to the format and or to the UI and the tools and the rest of it. But like fundamentally, the main difference I want to see is something like a Reddit rplace experiment, but it's in service of collecting, collating, and compiling and compending. Is that a word? Information, useful information, educational data points on various topics of interest. Whereas the Reddit thing, you know, it was a fun time, and it was all just for the heck of it, which is great. And I think an element of that should be present here too, but with the more explicit stated purpose of getting a bunch of physics nerds together and coming up with a good way to encapsulate all of undergraduate and up and down physics, and getting a bunch of music theory nerds together. Please reach out if you're a music theory nerd. And trying to piece together some kind of map of music theory and in a way that's navigable and memorable and evolving and growing and changing, and I just think there's endless potential in that kind of initiative, and it's kind of crazy to me that something like that hasn't been done and blown up and in some ways maybe usurped Wikipedia. Which, I don't want to have to do, but how about compete with Wikipedia? I don't think it needs, oh God, I can't get this in the right spot. Whatever. Provide a competitor. Provide some friendly competition to Wikipedia. I don't want to kill Wikipedia. It's a parent project. It's the biggest inspiration for this, but it's outdated and it needs a kick up the arse, I think. And I think there's just infinite potential for that, and someone's just got to do it, right? Give it a go. So to summarize that's probably the bog standard pitch here. The kompendium project is Wikipedia crossed with Google Maps, crossed with Reddit rplace. There you go. Is it backwards still? It's probably backwards still. And it's ambitious. Many will say it's impossible. But you don't think that, do you? We can do it. We can do it. I've much more to say and much more to draw, and I didn't even go into my files. But I think, I don't know, I feel like that's a good first crack at explaining it. And we're coming up on about an hour, and so I think that'll work well. Who knows? I might decide in 20 minutes that actually I've got more to say and come back. But yeah, I guess if you like suffered through this whole thing, let me know what you reckon. But the plan is to go back through and kind of piece together a more coherent version of all of that I just said. So look out for that as well. Thanks for, oh God. Bye.